He stopped reacting, and everything changed. There was a man who lived in the center of the modern world, yet felt like a ghost. He was surrounded by noise, by demands, by the endless digital screams for his attention. Success was his shadow, yet peace was a stranger he had never met. His mind was a storm of chemical reactions, a lightning field of ancient instincts trying to survive a world that no longer required them. He finally understood his mind. He spent years dissecting the mechanics of his own brain, the amygdala's fear, the dopamine's hunger, the prefrontal cortex's struggle to lead. He learned the facts, the biology, the cold science of being human. But what he discovered next changed everything. He realized that knowing the map is not the same as walking the path. He realized the prison wasn't the brain itself, but the stories the brain told him. The prison he lived in wasn't made of stone or bars. It was built of thoughts he never questioned. Every "I can't," every "they hate me," every "I need more" was a brick in a wall he had built himself. This is his final story, the story of a man who stopped being a passenger in his own skull and became the architect of his own soul. Let us walk with him through the ruins of his old life. In the first chapters of his journey, he saw how his brain creates reality out of thin air, filtering the vastness of existence into a tiny, safe window. In the second, he saw how it controls every emotion with biological precision, turning chemicals into catastrophes and sparks into suffering. But recap isn't enough. Knowledge without application is just another burden, a heavier set of chains. Now, he would see who was really in control. He went back to the same world he had left, the same office, the same city, the same gray streets, the same people who expected him to be the same version of himself. The reactive, anxious man they knew. The same problems that once kept him awake at 3 a.m., heart pounding, mind racing through impossible scenarios. But something was fundamentally different. The world hadn't changed. He was no longer a puppet on the strings of his own neurochemistry. He was no longer reacting. Every external event, which once triggered an immediate internal explosion, now met a vast, silent space. He had learned that between the stimulus and the response, there is a gap, and in that gap lies the entirety of human freedom. He stood in that gap now, a fortress of marble in a world of glass. The first test was coming, and it would be louder than he expected. The first test came quickly. One day, in the heat of a crowded room, someone disrespected him. They threw words intended to wound, to provoke a reaction, to pull him down to their level of chaos. They laughed at his efforts, questioned his character, and sought to humiliate him in front of those he respected. The ancient parts of his brain, the survival circuits inherited from ancestors who fought for status in the tribe, began to fire. In the past, he would have argued. He would have felt the chemical surge of anger, the hot flush in his chest, the desperate need to prove himself, to defend his ego, to prove them wrong with superior logic or sharper insults. He would have reacted instantly, his brain taking the wheel before his mind could even think. But this time, he felt the surge, and he did nothing. He watched the anger like a scientist watching a reaction. There was a gap between the insult and the response. In that gap, he found his power. He stayed silent, letting the noise of others fall into the void. He did not provide the fuel the conflict needed to survive. He looked at the person with eyes that saw the fear beneath their aggression. He saw that their insult was about their own internal war, not about him. He chose the steady path of observation over the destructive path of reaction. His mind still screamed, "Respond! Defend yourself! Prove them wrong!" But he didn't listen to the scream. He treated his thoughts like weather, watching them pass across the sky of his awareness. He realized that the scream was just an echo of old programming. By not answering, he was rewriting the code. He was training his brain that his worth was not a variable dependent on the opinions of others. It was a constant, found within. He did not ignore the anger. He observed it. He saw it for what it was, a fleeting biological reaction to a perceived threat. He asked himself, "Is this useful? Does this align with the man I want to be?" The answer was always no. By the time the person finished their insult, the man was already elsewhere, anchored in his own calm. The conflict simply disappeared into the air like smoke in a strong wind. And something strange happened. Because he didn't feed the fire, it died. The other person, finding no resistance, became confused and eventually silent. The power dynamic shifted without a single word being spoken. He had won the battle without ever entering the field. In that silence, he realized a deep truth. Not every situation deserves a reaction. Not every thought deserves to be believed. Mastery begins with the pause. Not every situation deserves a reaction. The Stoic understands that his peace is his most valuable possession. Why would you give it away to anyone who asks for it? To react is to be a slave to the world. To remain silent and observant is to be the master. He understood now that his emotions were messengers, not masters. He listened to them, but he did not follow them. The second test was internal. Another day, in the quiet of his own room, he felt the cold grip of anxiety. There was no immediate danger, no reason for fear. No bills were overdue, no health issues were present. Just a hollow, vibrating feeling in his chest, a sense of impending doom that had haunted him for decades. His brain was projecting a future filled with failure and loss, creating a movie of misery that felt entirely real. Before he would have panicked, he would have searched for reasons to justify the fear, creating monsters in his mind to match the feeling in his body. He would have been lost in the what-ifs, the infinite branch of suffering. But now, he asked a single question, a question that acted like a scalpel, cutting through the fog of emotion to the bone of reality. He looked at the glowing pulse of his own biology. Is this real, or is my mind creating it? He looked around the room. The walls were solid. The air was still. He was safe in the present moment. He saw that his brain was simply trying to protect him from a future that hadn't happened yet, a future that might never happen. He was suffering in imagination far more than he ever had in reality. He brought his focus back to the weight of his body and the rhythm of his breath. The fear didn't leave immediately, but it lost its power. It was no longer the master. It was just noise in the background of a larger piece. He realized that anxiety is just the mind over-preparing for a ghost. It is a biological survival mechanism calibrated for a world of predators, firing in a world of comfort. He accepted the feeling without accepting the story. He became the observer of his own fear. You don't have to believe every thought. Your brain is a survival machine, not a truth teller. It is optimized for safety, not for happiness or clarity. The Stoic path is to judge which thoughts are useful and which are merely echoes of a primitive past. He saw that his mind was a garden. He had been letting the weeds of anxiety grow for years. Now, he was the gardener, choosing which seeds to water. But mastery is not a destination. It is a state of being maintained through constant pressure. He faced a betrayal that cut deeper than any insult. A close friend, someone he trusted with his secrets, someone he had helped in times of need, turned against him for profit. They lied about him, stole from him, and broke the bond of years. In the past, this would have destroyed him. The grief would have turned to a cold, black vengeance. But he remembered the lesson of the brain. His friend's choice was outside of his control. It was an event in the external world, like a storm or an earthquake. Only his response was his own. He didn't seek revenge. He sought understanding. He looked at the betrayal not as a victim, but as a student of human nature. He saw the mechanisms of greed and fear that had driven his friend's actions. He saw that his friend was also a slave to his own brain. He saw the fear in his friend's eyes, the fear of not having enough, the fear of being small. He saw the desperation that led to the betrayal. By understanding the psychology of the other, he freed himself from the anger. He didn't condone the action, but he refused to be poisoned by it. He chose peace over the heavy burden of resentment. He realized that to hate his betrayer was to give them power over his internal state. He reclaimed that power. He began to practice amor fati, the love of fate, not just accepting what happens, but loving it as necessary for his growth. Every trial was a stone that sharpened his blade. Every betrayal was an opportunity to practice a deeper level of forgiveness and self-reliance. He understood that the obstacles in his path were not blocking the way. They were the way. Fate was providing him with the exact challenges he needed to achieve mastery. He loved the struggle as much as the peace. He saw that a life without challenge is a life without strength. Like the marble of a statue, he was being carved by the tools of his experience. He didn't wish for a different life. He wished for the strength to face the one he had. He became a lover of reality, exactly as it was, with all its cracks and its gold. His mind was finally harmonized with the nature of existence. The world began to collapse around him. Finances failed due to events far beyond his reach. Status vanished. The future he had built with his logic and his labor was gone in a single season. The brain's survival alarm was ringing constantly, screaming of poverty, shame, and the loss of everything he held dear. It was the ultimate test, to lose the externals and see what remained of the man. The subconscious screamed of danger, but he sat in the ruins of his life and smiled. He realized that the things he lost were never truly his. They were borrowed from fate, held for a moment, and then returned. He had practiced for this his entire life. He knew that the loss of a house is not the loss of a home, and the loss of status is not the loss of character. He found that a man with nothing but his mind is still a king. He lived with memento mori, the reminder of death, not as a source of gloom, but as a source of clarity. If this was his last day, would he spend it in fear? No. He would spend it in excellence, in kindness, in the exercise of his reason. Death makes life meaningful by giving it a boundary. By remembering his mortality, he was freed from the trivialities of the world. He was focused on the eternal. He focused on the only thing that could not be taken: his character, his ability to choose his own meaning in the face of suffering. He found that the internal kingdom is the only one that truly matters. While others were panicking in the face of change, he was anchored in the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. He was a beacon of calm in a world of frantic shadows. He had reformed himself through the fire of his own trials. Eventually, fortune returned, as it often does for those who do not chase it. He was offered power, influence, and wealth greater than he had ever known. The brain's dopamine circuits fired, the promise of status, the rush of acquisition. It was a different kind of trial, a subtle temptation to return to the old ways of reacting and wanting. He was tempted to believe that he had finally made it and could relax his discipline, but he saw through the illusion. He knew that power is as fleeting as poverty. He accepted the responsibilities, but he did not attach his identity to them. He remained the same man in the palace that he had been in the ruins. He used the resources to help others, to build, to create, but he never forgot that he was just a steward of fate's gifts. His subconscious was now a loyal servant, not a deceptive master. Years passed. The man became a legend among those who knew him, though he sought no fame. He lived simply, with the quiet power of a mountain. He woke before the sun, training his mind like a warrior prepares for battle. He practiced the daily discipline of reflection, reviewing his actions, his thoughts, and his errors. He was never perfect, but he was always improving. He understood that the work of the mind is never finished. It is a lifelong labor of love. He taught others not by words, but by his presence. When they were chaotic, he was the silence. When they were fearful, he was the courage. When they were greedy, he was the contentment. He was the living embodiment of the Stoic facts he had discovered about the brain. He showed the world that biology is not destiny, and that the mind, once trained, can overcome any biological impulse. He was the master of his own fate. He had reprogrammed every pattern. His subconscious now worked for him, not against him. His habits were no longer chains, but the tools of his freedom. He had built an identity so strong that no external event could shake it. He realized that discipline is not a punishment we inflict upon ourselves, but the ultimate act of self-love. It is the process of creating a self that is capable of enduring anything with grace and power. He became what he did every day, and what he did was choose awareness. He chose the difficult right over the easy wrong. He chose the truth over the convenient lie. By doing so, he had rewired the very structure of his brain. His neural pathways now flowed toward peace and reason, like a river that has carved its own valley through the stone of time. He was a new man, born from the ruins of the old one. He was untouchable. He was no longer controlled by anger, no longer controlled by fear, no longer controlled by the need for approval or the fear of death. He was finally, truly free. He looked back at his journey, the pain, the insults, the betrayal, the loss, and he loved all of it. Every moment was a necessary step to this peak of awareness. He stood at the center of his own universe, a brilliant sun of consciousness that no shadow could extinguish. He realized the final, most powerful truth of all. The world was never the problem. The economy was never the problem. Other people were never the problem. His judgment of those things was the only problem he ever had to solve. Once he mastered his mind, the world became a garden of opportunities rather than a field of threats. He was no longer a victim of life. He was its co-creator. He was the master of his own kingdom. His final message to you is this: your brain is a universe of potential. Do not let it go to waste by reacting to shadows. Do not be a slave to your own chemistry. Light the fire of awareness. Practice the pause. Build your identity through discipline. You have the power to rewire your mind, to change your stories, and to become the master of your own life. The power is not in the world, it is in you. Right now, in this breath. You don't need to control life. Life will always be unpredictable, chaotic, and beyond your reach. You need to control your mind, because the moment you do, you become untouchable. You become a force of nature. You become the man you were always meant to be. Peace comes from awareness. Freedom comes from discipline. Power comes from the truth. Control your mind, and you control your life. The story of the man is your story. You are the one who finally understands. You are the one who is starting to see the truth. The journey doesn't end here. It begins. Every day is a new trial, a new opportunity to choose who you are. Will you be the reactive ghost of your past, or the conscious architect of your future? The choice is yours. It has always been yours. You are the master. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that hears them. You are not your emotions. You are the steady ground they walk upon. You are not your past. You are the action you take today. Discipline creates identity. Awareness creates freedom. Control your mind, and you will find a peace that the world cannot give and that the world cannot take away. You are ready. Go forth and be strong. Control your mind. Control your life. The world is yours once you master yourself. Remember the man who stopped reacting. Be that man. Be the stoic. The journey of 1,000 years begins with a single pause. This is the end of the story, but the beginning of your mastery. Part 4 is the seed. Let it grow. Control your emotions. Control your life. Awareness creates power. Discipline rewires the brain. You are in control. You are the master. You are free. Remember the man. Remember the mind. Remember the stoic. The work is yours. The peace is yours. The life is yours. Control your mind, and everything changes. Forever. Control your mind. Control your life. Peace comes from awareness. Awareness is power. Discipline creates identity. You are not your thoughts. You are the master. You are in control. You are free. Part 4 ends here. The work begins now. Master your mind. Master your world. Be the architect of your own soul. The final story is yours to write. The story ends. The work begins. Every fact about your brain that you have learned in this series was just a preparation for this moment. The moment you choose to act. The moment you choose to be aware. The moment you choose to be free. The stoic path is open to you. Walk it with courage. Walk it with discipline. Walk it with peace. You are not alone. You are one of us. The journey of the mind is the greatest adventure of all. You have traveled through the facts, the emotions, the subconscious, and the story. You have the tools. You have the knowledge. You have the power. Now, apply it. Reprogram your mind. Reshape your life. Become the man who stopped reacting. Become the stoic master. Your future is waiting for you. Go and meet it. Control your mind. Control your life. Peace comes from awareness. Awareness is power. Discipline creates identity. You are not your thoughts. You are the master. You are in control. You are free. The Stoic Brain series ends here, but your mastery is eternal. Control your mind. Control your life. Peace be with you. Farewell, architect of the soul. The light is yours. Series finale. Control your mind. Control your life. Awareness is freedom. Discipline is power. You are the master. Control your brain. Change your world. Stoic philosophy. The end. Thank you for watching. The journey is yours. Master it. Control your mind. Control your life. The light never fades for those who see. Farewell.